Hey everybody, it's Rick Trummer from Mid-South Color Lab and welcome to the current tip of the week. This week we're going to be going into using hue and saturation to affect color change. And it's kind of a difficult thing sometimes to be able to get the perfect color of the shirt or the pants that someone's wearing. And the reason for that is many. Most of it is because we're dealing with electronic signal and certain colors don't appear the same way when you get them in there, from the final digital copy. And that's again from the different wavelengths that are going on inside each of these colors and then being able to move it into a digital form. So sometimes we have to affect a color change onto a specific color that's inside something that you photograph. So today I'm going to show you how to go about doing that. I get a lot of times I'll go into a file from a wedding and the bride will say, well, that wasn't the color of those dresses. And because of the way that the light's falling on it and all of the stuff that goes along with it, all of a sudden, that teal or something that they may be is not showing up as teal. So going in and isolating that color can be very important, but how do you keep it off of all of the other areas so you're not doing a color shift and doing quickly enough that you'll be able to affect that change on every one of the files that you're being able to work with? How do we be able to isolate that color and be able to move it on each one of those so you don't have to go in to each of those files and actually get that change done? So let's take a look at it. The first thing that we're going to go into is I'm going to talk a little bit about how the hue and saturation adjustment layer works. So we're going to come down here under the new adjustment layer and we're going to go up to hue and saturation, and you can see the palette comes up here. So the first thing you have to know about is that the first line or the upper line here is kind of it's kind of the stay put line. It's where hue and saturation always lies. The bottom is the line that's actually going to move or change as far as the color toning is can be concerned. So in this example, if I move the hue and saturation, the color or the hue value, you'll notice that the bottom line is actually moving at this point. And so it's saying this: anything that used to be kind of red is kind of turning blue or purple, depending on where in the red range it is. Anything that was yellow is now turning red. Anything that was green is now moving towards the yellow. And anything that was kind of blue is now going through the green side. And you can see how that changes as we use this particular image to be able to do that. So again, you can see on the top we have these red to oranges up here. And if we click this back on, you can see how it's turning kind of that purplish kind of color shade. And then down below, you can see a lot of these are going green from the original color of blue. And that is exactly what these two lines are telling you. So right up here, it's saying blue is kind of turning green. So that's exactly what's happening. So that's what happens with the hue value. The second value here is the saturation value. So you can actually go down to desaturate the image and pull out all of the color, or you can oversaturate the colors to extreme values. And then the last one here is the lightness factor. So you can go to pure black to pure white, and you'll notice that it's making that change down below as well. So right now, all of my colors that I have here are now turning white, or vice versa, turning black. So that's how the palette works. So now we know that the palette works in a specific way. So how can we use the palette to be able to isolate color tone? Because that's really the goal that we're trying to do here. So what I've done is I've got a new adjustment layer inside this particular image. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to isolate, in this shot, I'm going to isolate the green tone or the green values of the leaves without touching any of the other values inside here. The first thing that we have to do is we have to pull this off the master area that it's in right now. It doesn't matter where we pull the color to, but we want to just put it to something, because what it's going to do is it's going to give us some bars that we need to be able to use inside this particular image. So let's just say for the example, we're going to go to red. So what Photoshop does is it says, okay, you selected red. And if you look down here at the bar area down below here, you'll notice that it goes through the whole red area. So this lighter area here is what Photoshop considers as solid red. And then of course it goes, these feather bars on each end go through the entire red structure. So anything that has a little bit of red in it is going to be inside these feather bars. So more red color is inside here, and then it feathers off to the outside. So with that said, let's just go back. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click on one end of these and we're going to push them together. And it doesn't matter where we push them to. The idea is that we're going to push them together and get them down really tight so that it's not clicking on anything. Now, once we do that, we're going to click on my eyedropper that's inside here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of the leaves that I have inside this space. You'll notice that right away, it goes to actually yellows. So it's not actually a green tone. It's kind of a yellow tone that's in there. So what I need to do is select all of the green leaves that are inside here, because that's the color that I want to isolate. So temporarily, what I'm going to do is I'm going to desaturate the selection that I've made. And you'll notice that a lot of the leaves actually went down to a neutral gray color tone. This is where I'm going to go in and click on all of the other areas that haven't been selected. And as I do that, the spacing is going to get wider down here. So I'm going to hold down my shift key, which is the plus eyedropper. The other way you can do that is actually click on the plus eyedropper here, and I'm going to select the other green leaves in here. And you can see that as I select them, they turn gray. This is telling me that I'm selecting those particular color shades inside here. You notice now I've got all of the green leaves now isolated in a gray tone. So what I'm going to do is just grab my feather bars in each end, and I'm just going to bring them out just a little bit to make sure it gets wrapped around the entire leaf part of it. Once I've made those selections, I can now move my saturation back to 0 where it was, and I have now been able to just isolate the green leaves that I had in here, and now I can change them to any color I want. So I can make the summer leaves now look like it's fall. And this is how you select color tone and being able to isolate it inside Photoshop. Now, the great thing about this is if I had multiple images with this particular leaf area, all I need to do is grab this layer and drop it on to each of those files in there, and it'll automatically make that selection for me. So if you had a bunch of dresses that you were isolating color tone, all you have to do is just keep dragging that particular layer onto all of those other files that you have, and you're quickly making those selections inside on those dresses. So hopefully this is a really good tip for you to be able to go in and do some really cool stuff and inventive stuff. I hope you enjoyed the tip of the week. And again, I'm Rick Trummer from Mid-South Color Lab, and I hope you're enjoying the series. Have a great day.